joining, Paul. Um,
Great to be here.
I was going to make a quick mention of the change, the handover, which I thought was going to be a temporary handover with Charlie and his health, and deciding to have a bit of a stroke and a muck around. Charlie's elected to step aside and take a sabbatical as such, and put me in the chair for the time being. So you'll see a bit more of my face floating around. But good to see you back on board, Charlie.
Thanks, mate.
Look forward to your contributions going forward in whatever format you can. I thought we'd just jump straight into the thoughts for the day. And with our thoughts for the day, if you want to share a win that you've had, or any other win from members around the group that you've heard from. So, Harry, we may start with you, please.
Thought of the day.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, so my name is Harry. I'm the owner and the lunatic real estate agent from Gympie to Caloundra in Queensland. And my thought for the day is, if you are struggling today, remember you have survived everything you've gone through up to this point.
Yes.
Best day of your life is still yet to come. People to meet, things to do, and experiences to have. You can do this.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Harry.
you.
Now, Charlie, you're next off the rank.
Oh, am I?
But also, as you're sort of a bit of a layback in this situation, I mean, you're judging the best thought of the day.
Oh, well, here it comes then. Good morning, swappers, and any future swappers that we might have out there this morning. My name is Charlie NICHOLLS. I'm a recovering stroke survivor. And instead of a thought of the day, I've got more of an observation of the day, and that is that it doesn't matter how young you are, it never prepares you for getting old.
Thank you, Charlie. Rhonda.
Good morning, swappers, and our special guest speaker today. I am Rhonda Buttery, and I have a nutrition business, and I also sell and teach people how to use astrology software. And my thought is a code that I live by, and that is, there is always an upside. Sometimes you have to look for it, but there's always an upside.
Very true. Thanks, Rhonda. Is Sylvia with us?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Jeremy.
Good morning. Jeremy Britton, Boston Trading Co., making sure you can invest into cryptocurrencies safely and securely. And I had a different motivational, inspirational thought for the day, and that was crushed when Harry mentioned something about, like, we're all going to die sometime. And I was like, oh, that's a little bit morbid. So I thought I'd come up with a new quote based on what Harry said. And from Groucho Marx, no man goes before his time, unless, of course, the boss leaves early.
True. Young Paddy Sweeney, what are your words of wisdom?
I was thinking about things this morning, and back in 1975, when I was a young bloke, I was in the process of buying the rights and the franchise to Think and Grow Rich and all of Napoleon Hill's material. And I needed $25,000 to do it, probably a bit over 100 grand today. And I only had 15 grand was all I could come up with. And everywhere I looked and tried, I got knocked back, and there was no way knowing that it would appear that I was going to get through that little hump, as it were. So I picked up Napoleon Hill's book, this one here, which was Succeed and Grow Rich Through Persuasion. And in the back of that book, he has 900 anagrams or 900 original sayings that he's come up with. So I decided that I wasn't going to go to bed until I'd come up with a plan on how I could get this extra $10,000 in 1975. So I'm going through the books, that book and other books and everything else, and I finally came to a saying that was like a light switch going on, okay? And the saying was, opportunity often tests a person to see what sort of metal they're made of before she crowns them with great success. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at this not as a problem, but as a test to see if I deserve to get these rights. And within 12 hours or about 18 hours, I had the money. There you
Wow.
Excellent.
Great story there, young Paddy. Thank you. Susan, do we have Susan on board?
No.
Judith? Over to you, Judith.
Thank you. I thought it was appropriate to unmute. My thought for today is always just keep it short and simple.
Good shot.
Very good.
It does help. Have we got Glenys on board? No. Alex? No. Jenny, we're over to you. Jenny Cartwright.
Yeah, good morning, swappers. My name is Jenny Cartwright, and I have transitioned from a sales trainer to an aqua aerobics teacher at my ripe old age, and I'm really loving it. So I do about 13 classes a week with 60 people in every class, and it's changed the way I live my life. I'm much fitter than I used to be. So my thought for the day is, if you change the way you look at things, you change your view, and then everything is possible.
Very true. Thanks, Jenny. Anne Carlson, over to you.
Yes, my thought for the day is, and it comes from, we had the most glorious full moon last night. I don't know if any of you guys took a look at it, but it was just glorious up here. Don't worry about making waves simply by being yourself. The moon does it all the time.
Yes.
Thanks, Anne. Have we got Doc with us? No.
No.
Yvonne with us?
Yes, yes. Oh, I've loved all the quotes this morning. I think Charlie, you've got a tough job. So Yvonne Collier, Madison Training. So it's all around communication, better, handling difficult people, difficult conversations, etc. Influence. So enthusiasm, a little thing that makes a big difference.
Thanks, Yvonne. Young Luke.
Good day, everybody. How you doing? You all good, I hope?
Yep.
Okay, look, I'm still up and at 'em, 83 years of age and heading for the 84 fairly soon. All is good in my life, thanks be to God. Still working, still a licensed real estate agent, still consulting to public companies, both here and overseas. So thanks be to God for all of that. It's a slow process getting to success, but quitting won't speed it up.
Yeah.
You.
Very good.
Okay. Over to Gregory, which is me, Greg Eldridge.
Pontificating?
Hang on, guys. I've just lost you for some unknown reason.
Oh, we can see you.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, I can't see you guys, but anyway, Greg Eldred, the executive group down here in Melbourne. We specialise in the office equipment industry and in air purification. For me, my thought for the day comes out of my journey to Laos, where I was going over to have a holiday and go off on an adventure with the elephants in Luang Prabang. But on arrival and getting struck down with COVID and spending 9 days in a grotty hotel room, and then having to bring Lord Fauntleroy home and having to sleep with one eye open for 3 or 4 nights, and then getting back into the office, it has taught me that the place you will find that success comes before work is in the dictionary only. So now I've got to try and get you guys back.
And we've got Sylvia with us now.
Okay.
Yay, finally.
Your thought for the day, Sylvia?
My thought of the day is
I'm so happy on this planet because Earth is crammed with heaven.
Right. Okay, Charlie, what do you think? Who's the best thought of the day?
Well, we had a few very, very good thoughts of the day, starting off with Rhonda. I thought her thought was very nice, but one that I've not heard before is Anne Castle. Can you please repeat your thought of the day?
I sure can. And just think of this every time you see the full moon, okay? It's about don't worry about making waves simply by being yourself. The moon does it all the time.
Beautiful.
Oh, well, I kind of like that because I sometimes like to make waves. So I think I'm going to give you the thought of the day.
Woohoo!
Congratulations.
Thank you, Charlie. And on that note, I'd like to welcome Charlie Nichols to share 5 minutes on the life and times of the gentleman.
Thank you for that. I thought you said you wanted an update on my health, but anyway,
Your 5 minutes is your 5 minutes, but can you make it a quick 5 minutes?
Someone better give me the warning bell at 10. All right. Now, well, in actual fact, Sylvia, I spoke to Sylvia yesterday, and she got me thinking about certain things. I told her about 6 months ago that a black scorpion in Laos, a black scorpion stung me, big toe, and my blood pressure went up to over 200. I was rushed to the clinic and stuff like that. And she reminded me of it yesterday. She said, you know, you were very lucky. I said, why am I lucky? And she said, well, because the big toe is the furthest part of the body away from your heart. And it could have meant something really, really bad for you. And I thought, well, that's probably bloody true. And I started to think to myself, well, why am I lucky? And I went back through my life a little bit, and there's a couple of reasons why I sometimes really do think I am lucky. And one of them is from my mum. Do you know, my mother used to wake me up every morning by saying, come on, wake up, you're a very lucky boy because you live in a lucky country. Every morning she woke me up that way. And I said to her before she passed away, do you know why I'm such a positive person? And she said, why? And I said, because you used to wake me up every morning by saying you're a very lucky boy because you live in a very lucky country. And you know what my mother said to me? Oh, that's a load of crap. Because she did not understand the power of affirmations. She didn't understand what goes into your head at such a young age can really, really. She just said it from a mother's love, not from any particular reason, just because she loved me. So that's an affirmation. That's an affirmation that I've taken with me all of my life. Matter of fact, I used to say the same thing to my kid, or not the same thing. I used to say to them, wakey, for goodness sakey, it's going to be a great day because you're going to make it a great day.
Yeah.
And that was the affirmation that I passed on to them. And then in 1985, I joined SWAP. And I learned another very powerful affirmation. And it's this one that I believe has made me the luckiest. I learned I'm alive, I'm well, and I feel great. We've been saying that for so many years, I reckon it prolongs our life.
Yeah.
You know, from 1985 onwards, for I don't know how many years, you know, we had a telephone line in those days, not a mobile. I used to answer the phone. I'm alive, I'm well, and I feel great. And people used to hang up and then ring back again. And sometimes with somebody else to listen.
Who's the nutter on the end of the phone?
Who's the nutter on the end of the phone? That's right. So I believe that a couple of those things have kept me in good stead, because when you look at some of the crap I've been through, 2 heart attacks, I have no idea how many strokes. They couldn't count them on the MRI when they went to count them at the University Hospital on the Gold Coast here. 1985, I was diagnosed with a tumour on the pituitary gland. 2000, they found an aneurysm in the same spot. I've been taking a drug called bromocriptine for 35 years, I suppose, just to keep me alive. And so, in a lot of ways, I'm diabetic too, and love sugar. So, in a lot of ways, I'm a very lucky person.
Ding, ding.
And lucky boy.
Is that it? Well, I won't tell you the story I was going to tell you then. Thank you, everybody.
How long will the story take, Charlie?
It doesn't matter. I'll keep it for another day.
Good.
Hey?
You've forgotten about it already. Thank you, mate. Thank you very much. And I've got to say, on behalf of the group, it's fabulous to see that ugly face of yours on the screen here, participating the way you are. Congratulations on your on the advancements you've made. So great to see, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeremy, over to you to introduce our special guest speaker for this morning.
No, that's Jenny's job. I found the speaker. Someone else has got to do that.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, thanks very much for the communication. Let's zip right over to Jenny. Jenny.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning because I don't know whether you remember me, Paul, but I've been one of the attendees of your seminars for many years ago. And that's the reason that I'm here today, because it's Paul Blackburn speaking, and a voice from the past. And I'm sure you've got something wonderful to tell us today that we've forgotten from the past. So Paul Blackburn delivers extremely high quality, actionable information about personal growth. His research-backed techniques, processes and formulas that have been proven to work on over 400,000 students over close to 4 decades. Paul promises that if you show up and give your all, you can access all the tools and resources to help you reach your true potential. You can get actionable information and strategies across the full spectrum of personal growth subjects, including mindset, emotional intelligence, self-esteem, high performance, wealth creation, and more. Paul also has design systems and processes to help you stay on track and focused, so falling off the wagon is a thing of the past. Please give a big warm welcome to Paul Blackburn.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to mute everybody. So, Paul, you will need to just unmute yourself in 1 second.
Okay, so
Go.
so we need to be unmuted, Jules.
We're right. That's
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Got me? Okay, beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for the welcome and the introduction, Jenny. I do remember you. So it's perhaps, an interesting concept that I can have been around as long as I have and know quite a few of you. So maybe that's the logical thing, maybe it isn't. My life has followed a course similar to yours. I was first introduced to SWAP, I think in 1978, 1979. I was a member of the Strathfield SWAP when we lived in Sydney many years ago. And I met all these strange people who jumped up and down and said, I'm alive, I'm well, I feel great. And that felt very foreign to me because I was a school teacher. I'd kind of escaped from school teaching and I'd gone into this world where I was trying to make my own way, and I met all these weird people who wanted to be excited about, being alive when I thought, it'd be better if we could make some money or we could do something. And anyway, eventually I got the bug and away we went. And I believe that SWAP was my introduction to what I do now, which was to work on yourself. And so, the great work. I remember at Strathfield, people like Ron Tacky and John Neville would turn up just as members in the crowd. And, I had no idea how privileged I was at the time to be rubbing shoulders with them. I felt pretty inferior. I was pretty young. I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And these older people kind of seemed to know a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So I kind of shut up and listened, and away we went. But as a consequence of discovering that I was going to have to make my life work, then I went into what's now known as a personal development field, and I've worked in that industry for 38 years. So we say now nearly 4 decades, because that means when I'm in it for 45 years, I can still say 4 decades. So it means all of our written material doesn't have to be changed. Over those years, I guess if you're interested in the sales aspect of it, then our business has turned over in one form or another, somewhere between 30 and $40 million. And we don't know how much because we didn't know that we should track it and keep a record of it, those kind of things. But along the way, what that meant was that I learned how to sell. And over the last 10 years, I've learned that there's a new way to sell, and that is to not sell. And that what we need to do now is to offer what we have and say to whoever we're talking to, if that suits your inclination and your budget, and you feel like you can trust me and we can go somewhere together, then you should avail yourself of this product, suit yourself. And what we've found is that works really, really well. It's kind of like, I've trained hundreds of coaches, people how to do what I do. And literally what I say to them is, you need to be yourself. You need to make a unique offering that comes from what it is that you believe in and what you can put your hand on your heart and say is your truth, and just see who wants to partake of that. And those who don't, they're not your audience, and don't worry about it. So along the way, what I've kind of come to understand is that what most people are interested, people show up and say, look, I want to lose some weight, I want to be more successful, I want to, change better relationships, promotion at work, those kind of things. But if we were to summarize what all of those things are, then we've become behavior change specialists. What we work with now is, if you can name a habit that you want to change, we can show you a method for doing that. The method actually happens to be the same because it's based on modern advances in brain technology. So we now know why it's difficult to change habits, why it can be easy if you know what to do. And, a lot of it is a development of things that you already know. So I may be saying things that are quite familiar to you today, but there will be some new twists and turns on it, because there are things we know about the brain nowadays that were not known 10 years ago, were not known 5 years ago, because the amount of research being done on the way the brain works and the way that we age as human beings, absolutely phenomenal. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people employed around the world researching what's going on in the brain and what makes us age and what prevents aging. And if you're interested in being around for a while, then just type longevity into Google and you'll be busy for months to come, because if you read the research, then there's a lot of it. But what I thought I would do today is share with you our kind of like our proprietary technique or our framework for habit change. And we've moved away from habit because habit kind of implies good and bad. What we understand is that habits are, habits come and go, but behaviors, the way that we behave, if you can name a behavior that you'd like to change, we can show you how to do that. And that turns out to be a pretty popular thing. We run a thing called the 21-Day Habit Change Challenge. And what we find is that people get onto that thing. It's a very low cost thing. It's like $50 to be in it. And we do a half-hour transmission each morning, give people an assignment. And so, you plug that into our page and we'll see you tomorrow. And we do another half hour. And what we discovered is that half an hour a day makes a bigger difference than a three-day workshop in a conference center. So our traditional background is classroom teaching, where we would get people together for 3 days in a conference center and teach them everything we know, everything we understand, because, if you're going to provide value, you have to share what you know as much as you can. But what that does is overwhelms people and they walk out going, that was great, but I'm not too sure what I learned. I definitely don't know how to implement it. Whereas half an hour a day for 21 days changes lives. It literally changes lives. And what I mean by that is people come along and figure out, okay, they know they need to stop smoking. They've been working on it for years, haven't really got there. They start again on day one of our 21-Day Habit Change Challenge, and 3 months later, still not smoking from day one. Give up alcohol, never go back. So it's a pretty extraordinary thing. It's based on some simple principles I just want to share with you, and that involves a little bit of understanding about how the brain works. I use smoking as an example because it's been recently revealed that nicotine is 27 times more addictive than heroin. What that means is that somebody getting off cigarettes is having a bigger battle than someone getting off heroin. Staggering concept when you think about it. So let me explain by going through this process here. If I could grant you one wish, what is it that you could wish for? And remind yourself, you're not allowed to have 25 more wishes, right? You just got to make one wish right now within 10 seconds or the opportunity is gone. Now, if you can just jot down a couple of things, then what you'll find is that we won't take the time to do this, but when I do this in front of a crowd of 1,000 people, and ask them to yell out what it is that they would wish for, what comes up top of the list is health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. And oh, by the way, could you stop me procrastinating? Can I just get a show of hands? How many of you are world champion contenders in the procrastination Olympics? How many of you are running the risk of taking out the gold medal at the procrastination Olympics? Okay,
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And that's because you've been to that thing. So the interesting concept here is that young people are not so interested in health. It's you don't value health until you lose it. And then when you discover that it's vanishing, that's when it gets to the top of the list. But interesting enough, these are the top 5 things that vast crowds say are important to them. When they show up in our courses of various kinds, we have courses that, like I said, 21-day habit change challenge, very cheap, low entry price, delivers amazingly. That's really our test, so people can come along and get a taste of what we do, see whether they like us or not. It's actually our primary sales tool, because what we say is, let me work with you and do the best I possibly can for you. And if you like some more, well, good on you. And if you don't, well, at least you've got a great result. See you sometime in the future, maybe never. And away we go. But people turn up saying, well, look, what I want to do is I want to stop procrastinating in all the various forms that it takes, whether that's Facebooking or whatever it is. I want to stop overeating or over drinking or, overindulging in one thing or another. I'd love to pick up the ability to say no. I find myself going to bed a bit later than would be good for me. I'd love to give up smoking. I struggle to find me time. And yes, there's a few kilos I should lose. They're the same few kilos that I should have lost last year and the year before and the year before and the year before that. And those are very popular things in terms of what people want us to help them with. There's a very long list, but that's kind of like the popular end of it. When we look at how you've got to do that, then the major problem that we have is our hardwiring. So the way that our brain is structured, you would be familiar with the fight or flight syndrome. That brain structure simply means that anything that is habitual is not stored in the conscious thinking part of your brain. It's stored in what's called the amygdala. Some people call the amygdala the lizard brain. In other words, it's a part of your brain that you can't access through conscious thought. You might get there, as Charlie says, through affirmation, but it'll take a lot of affirmation and a lot of repetition to get there, because the amygdala doesn't speak English. It doesn't speak any language. And so what happens is when we are under threat, and typically, if we go back to, when we lived in the jungle, then we would be hyper alert for movements in the trees around us, because, if a leaf moved, that might be there's a tiger behind that's going to eat us. We're still hardwired for that. And so the fight or flight syndrome is triggered by the amygdala. And what the amygdala does is it shuts down the prefrontal cortex. In other words, what it does is it drops a whole bunch of adrenaline and cortisol and other chemicals into your bloodstream. And part of its process is to stop you from thinking, because we need every ounce of energy to run or to fight. Now, if you understand that concept, then you'll understand that normal stress in our day-to-day life is something that has become our enemy. We no longer suffer from the tiger jumping out behind the leaf. We suffer from the person chopping us off in the traffic, or the boss demanding that we do something extra, or the kid who won't cooperate, or the 14-year-old who's a nightmare, or whatever it is. In other words, the stress shows up in a different form, but we have the same reaction to it. And that is that we stop thinking. And so when we stop thinking, what happens is that we go through situations where we can't think of what we should have said. So just by show of hands, how many of you have been involved in an argument and your best line in the argument came up to you about 3 hours after the argument was finished? And any of you had that thing, I know what I should have said to the mongrel. it's almost worth ringing them up and starting the argument again. Hey, accept that. I'm going to recommend you don't do that, because they've had 3 hours to calm down as well. But you'll be familiar with the idea that people don't know what to say in a job interview until after the interview's over, or they go blank in an exam, or, you know, those kind of situations. That's really just the amygdala shutting the brain down, or shutting the thinking process down, so that we don't have access to what it is that we normally use in terms of our thinking process. To understand all of that, all we have to do is look at a diagram rather than an actual picture. And so if we represent the brain with that circle, we're talking about 200 billion brain cells. That's a lot. So if we look at each one of those brain cells being capable of individual action, then you'll be aware of the conversation that runs in your head all day. So once again, hands up if you are familiar with the idea that you talk to yourself all day. That's normal, right? One conversation is normal, 2 conversations is abnormal. So just the one conversation. And so what happens is our logical sequential brain, the intellect, so to speak, thinks and talks and reasons and does maths and those kind of things, does it all day. And basically it starts up early in the morning and it keeps going until you go to sleep. The subconscious is where we store memories. It's where we have our creative outlooks, where we get flashes of insight and a sudden understanding. It's also where we sleep and where our memory is stored. And the unconscious is where autonomic body function takes place. So that's how we control breathing and heart rate, those kind of things. Things you never have to worry about, but which will adjust according to what's going on in your day-to-day. So if we look at all of those functions, then essentially we are dominated by our thoughts, but our thoughts use about 10% of our brain capacity. And this is why just trying to think your way out of a habit is not going to work, because if 10% of your brain is saying head towards the right-hand side of the room, but your subconscious using 50 or 60% of your entire brain capacity is saying go left, what you'll find is you'll go left wondering why you didn't go right when that's what you're meant to do. Typically, that's things like don't yell at the kids, don't yell at the kids, don't yell at the kids. So in other words, we kind of find that we do things that are buried in the subconscious. We talk about my emotions overcame me. I got scared. I got angry. The tears just ran out of my face. I didn't tell them to do that. It just happened. That's typical of this situation that we're talking about. So when the subconscious fires up, it's like a bulldozer versus a person in a harness. And so 10% of our brain is saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, or don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And the 60% of it is getting on with doing it anyway. And the end result of that is that we sometimes find ourselves confused. So have any of you ever found yourself saying to yourself, I'm trapped inside a body with an idiot? Have any of you thought, like, there's a crazy person in here who is not doing what I know is good for me? How many of you had that? It's been difficult to do the things that I already know are good for me. And the last time I did these things that are good for me, it worked perfectly. Or I'm having trouble stopping doing the things that are bad for me. And the last time I stopped doing the things that are bad for me, that worked perfectly too. So it's strange for us to have this experience and we end up saying there's something wrong with me, or whatever it is, but it's not really a problem. It's just the fact that the amygdala kicks in and gets us to do what we've been trained to do. And I spent a long time working at the Institute of Sport training athletes, and a big part of that boils down to what Charlie was saying about the repetition of emotion. In other words, what we do with athletes is we get them, a golfer, we will get them to hit 1,000 golf balls a day. And that's the repetition that's going to build the patterning, the programming. And when that repetition is built into a pattern or a program, then that golfer can hit that ball without having to think about it. In fact, then we've got to get them to stop thinking so that the program will take over. And so you'll see that, no matter what sport you watch, there are elements of, when a person gets to the professional level, they have things that they do that happen so quickly that they think about it afterwards and they go, oh, that was a good shot. Oh, did that well. A tennis player will recognize a ball coming to them at approximately 200 kilometers per hour. That means they have 0.3 of a second to process it. You can't think that quickly. And so what happens is that our eyes analyze the spin on the ball, the direction, the height above the net, a whole bunch of other characteristics that a machine still can't do. and decides that we should run to the back corner of the court and hit a backhand topspin lob as opposed to a forehand slice. That processing happens without thinking. And it happens because of the repetition. So that's why you'll see a tennis player in a court over and over again, practicing a shot, getting it into the subconscious so that it becomes automatic. Many of our actions are automatic. If you look at what you and I have been practicing, this is the very same concept that means that you can clean your teeth without having to think about it. What it means is you can brush your teeth, but you don't, you go, how many of you notice you follow the same track around your mouth every time you brush your teeth? When you get dressed, you put the same arm in your shirt first. You put the same sock on. If you go left foot first, try and right foot. It feels kind of odd. When you try our clothes on, if your left arm goes into a coat first, and you go into a clothes shop and you try on a new coat, someone's helping you try on that coat. The chances are you'll find yourself doing this, because if they've started on your wrong side, you can't find the other armhole. But if they start on the correct side, the coat just goes on. So these things, we have about 60,000 of these programs. They're all buried in this subconscious. Whether you can access those programs or not, whether those programs fire off or not, depends on your stress levels. And stress levels depend on what's going on around you and how you handle that. Because what stresses you does not stress somebody else. So stress is not what is happening to you. Stress is what you are doing with what's going on around you. Take me fishing, you're going to have a stressed individual with you. I hate it. But other people go fishing to relax. So it's not the fishing, it's the attitude to the fishing. The thing that's happening to you is not the thing that's causing you to feel how you feel. You're doing that. So to understand that, all we have to understand is that your brain runs on electricity. Like I said, 200 billion brain cells, electricity shooting across a whole lot of them. What we do is we speed the brain up and we slow it down. And the way that we speed it up is we become more tense. And the way we slow it down is we become more relaxed. So just think about it. What do you got to do to go to sleep? The chances are you got to lie down, close your eyes and relax a bit. And if you do, you'll drop into your subconscious where dreams happen. And then you'll go further deeper than that. You'll be out like a light. We could let a bomb off and that won't wake you up. So the more relaxed you can be, the better you'll perform, because the better you can access a program that's in your subconscious, which is why we have to teach our athletes how to remain cool, calm, and collected, despite the fact the game might be seriously going against them. Hands up if that makes sense. And you doing your best is a question of how cool, calm, and relaxed you can stay when there's lots of reasons for you to be upset. So the more tense we become, the further upwards we go on the operational scale within the brain, the more hyper we become. That's kind of okay, except that what it does, it takes you away from what you have programmed into your subconscious that you can do automatically. As a driver, you would be less effective at driving a motor car than when you become more tense, because there's more energy directed to not wrecking it than there is to cool, calm, and collected, making your way through the chaos and the mayhem. And so typically what can happen here is you can be walking down the street, see someone that you recognize, understand you know them, but you can't remember their name. And so as you approach that person, the brain gets nervous about what's their name, what's their name, what's their name. It encourages you to be urgent. And so what happens is say, quick, what's their name? Before we can duck into a shop so that they walk past without seeing us, they look up and they recognize us and they wave and they smile. It's obvious they recognize our name. We've got no idea who they are. And at that point, we become more tense. So you move further away from the memory banks. You have your conversation with them. I don't know what women do. Men call each other mate. If someone's calling you mate, they've forgotten who you are. Just go along with it. They'll remember 3 hours later. So we deal with that. And then we walk off down the street and we go our own separate ways. What happens? Half an hour, 100 meters down the road, well, the pressure goes off, we relax, and as a consequence, we get access to our memory banks and we go, oh, that was their name and they owed me $100. And suddenly it's dawned on us. Now that's basically an explanation of what the amygdala does in shutting down the brain and how we need to access our subconscious to get everything to come back online, so to speak. What it means is this, and something pretty important. One of the most important skills you can ever learn is how to be relaxed when the pressure is on. Not how to be relaxed because you're on holidays, but how to be relaxed when there's every reason why you should not be, because if you want to perform at your best, that's when you're going to need it the most. There are proven systems for this, and I'm not here to teach you that today. Really what I'm going to say is if you look at meditation, if you look at mindfulness, if you take up Tai Chi or yoga or practice visualization or learn about square breathing, or you get into your hobby, whatever that might be, then what you'll find is these things always work in terms of measurable impact on your ability to slow down your heart rate, decrease your blood pressure, make your entire body work better. But if you're asking me, okay, Paul, what are these things, which ones work the best? The most guaranteed are meditation and mindfulness. And the reason I'm not going to bother you with them now and talk about them, I'm just going to recommend them, is that if you were to type either of those two terms into Google or into YouTube, you would be swamped with information, and you can go and process that yourself and learn about that. I'm going to recommend that you do that in your own time and in your own space. I'm going to suggest we can go to the next level if you're interested, and that is, if you understand how to be relaxed when the pressure is on, that gives you access to your subconscious, where all the programming is stored. I talked about, the golf players taking 1,000 swings a day. That's a program. How you drive a car is a program. How you clean your teeth is a program. How you put your clothes on is a program. So what I mean by is anything that you can do automatically is in there in your subconscious, and you experience the results in your day-to-day life. And if you have a look at what it is that most people want, what you'll see is the programming is a major thing. And so when it comes to health, people who are determined to be healthy, people who have an instinctive programmed self-belief about health being their birthright and something they need to preserve and go after, have better health. In other words, you can look at the correlation between mindset and health, and it's vast, it's huge. And you probably know people who just catch everything that's going around. You also know people who don't. If we go to a mother with 3 kids and say, how come you never get sick? She'd say, well, I haven't got time. If we go to somebody running a business and we say, how come you never get sick? They'd say, well, I do the work of 5 people, so, we can't have that. Haven't got time, haven't got the money, haven't got the whatever, can't afford to get sick, so we don't. Same thing happens with wealth. If you look at what happens to people who win the lottery, better than 85% of those people go back to square one within 18 months. The actual number is 17 and a half months, people are back to square one. That's on average. Staggering concept when you think about it. And yet people who are programmed to be wealthy will go and create wealth regardless of their circumstances. If you look at relationships, yet another key area in life, what you'll see is Mary Smith, the victim of domestic violence, we can get her out of there as a matter of saving her, as a matter of protecting her, and say, here's 1,000 available men in your age category, take your pick, and boom, back into another disastrous relationship. So you see these things follow patterns, and they follow patterns to do with our core beliefs. Core beliefs are things that generate results out there for us. You ever been involved in the sales field? And I suspect some of you have been and maybe still are. What you'll notice is people with core beliefs that are positive get better results in their day-to-day work. And we can't put a finger on what it is that they do. You can follow a great salesperson all day and never really put your finger on what it is about their technique or whatever, because it's a belief that's carrying the result. And of course, if you look at happiness, which is something that most people say that they want, hands up if you know somebody who's going to be miserable tomorrow and they've made the decision already. So that person is carrying unhappiness with them and bringing it to the circumstances. So the number 2 thing that you can learn in terms of the most important thing you can learn in life is how to change the programming. It's not as simple as it sounds, and yet it's relatively easy. The secret boils down to a formula. And I've spent 40 years chasing this formula, and it's really only come into form in the last couple of years. And basically the formula says, okay, you can change like a chameleon. And it boils down to this. There are three things we need to get right. And those three things boil down to, what do I need to think? What do I need to feel? And what do I need to do? And so we've built a model around that that says at your core is the hero, is the genius, is your spirit, is your essence, the God manifested within you. For those of you who have a faith, we say within you is God manifested here on planet Earth. So we mean this in a very profound and very huge way. And my job nowadays is to help people find the hero within, so that when you turn within, you can turn to someone you can trust, someone who can give you trustworthy, viable advice. You can turn within and find a friend. That's a staggering concept. When you find the hero within, then essentially what you'll find is that surrounding that are three keys that most people in our world don't have. If you look at the world around us, if you look at the world out there pursuing meaning in life, and what you'll find is people lack purpose, power, and passion. And the reason I lack them is because this thing about I'm saying about what you think, what you feel, and what you do. And so what we call mindset could be grouped into the category called head. We use head as a short term for mindset. If you think about mindset as one of the most important things you can ever have, what we need to do is go from confused to clear. Most people, their mindset is confused because of the number of options that are available nowadays. We live in the information world, and what the information world does is create confusion, because how you're going to get through it all and assimilate it, all those kind of things. So we need to be clear of mind. We also need to be freed from our old wounds. We've all been hurt and we've all been damaged. We've all been dumped, treated badly, call it what you like. We have various degrees of fragile around us. You know, the most common fear on the planet is the fear of speaking in public. It would be unusual in a group like this that we'd come across much of that. But when you say, what is the cure? The cure is actually finding courage. The cure is not going and learning how to structure a good talk. The cure is actually finding the courage. And when we become bulletproof, that's when we can go and do anything. And of course, the third thing is, what do I do? And if there's anything that I've come across in the world out there at the moment is, I know that I need to go to the gym, I'm just not getting there. I know that I need to change my diet, I'm just kind of getting around to that. And so when we go from ineffective to unstoppable, bingo, we've got it all together. So this is our model. This is our framework that we use to work people through getting to where it is that they want to get to, because we all have a varied interpretation of that. You might be 10 out of 10 in 2 or 3 of these. You might be 9 out of 10, you could be 4 out of 10. You could give yourself a score on those 3 concepts. But let me explain why that's difficult and what we need to do about it. If you've got 2 of these things running red hot, you kind of got a problem, because you need all 3 of them working. And less than 5% of the population can actually get all 3 of them operating all at the same time. And that means most people are doomed to trying and failing. And sooner or later, what happens when we try and fail is we just stop trying. So look at it from this point of view. If you are bulletproof heart-wise, you're brave and courageous as they come, and you get up and do things, then but your mindset is not right. If your thinking is not clear, the chances are you've got heaps of passion and excitement and enthusiasm, and you go out there and you smash into brick walls all the time because you chose the wrong direction, because the thinking is not clear. Hands up if that makes sense. I'm sure you've got people in your life, they're full of passion, you just wish you could direct them a little bit. These are people these are the ready, fire, aim people. Their weapon of choice is a machine gun. You know, pull the trigger, wave it around, see what we can hit. These people will turn up to work and work all day and get to the end of the day and discover they've been working on the wrong thing. Good, big-hearted people, but mindset not there. Well, you can have mindset there, and you can be full of get up and go and enthusiasm. What that does, it gives you power. But what it means is that without deep thought about what brings meaning to your life, you end up with a bunch of trophies. And so those trophies end up on the wall, you know, certificates and trophies in the cabinet. There's a reason why they call trophies dust collectors. It's because they don't do anything. And so what happens is you can get out there with an enormous amount of power, achieve a lot that doesn't mean anything to you. And many people, particularly when I look at you guys as an age category, and I include myself in that age category, we kind of look at it and go, what was that all about? What was that Mercedes all about? What was that gigantic house all about? What was all of that stuff all about? It was nice, but it didn't fill my heart. It just kind of was cool. So we end up with a lot of power. We can make stuff happen, but we wonder about it. And of course, if you've got the right mindset and you've got enough courage, then what happens is you've got a lot of purpose and you get on with it, but there's no doing. And so what happens is we have brilliant ideas and concepts that work like magic, but actually never get any horsepower onto the ground. This is where the rubber hits the road, but it doesn't hit it hard enough to actually create traction and the wheels spin. And if you know somebody whose wheels are spinning all the time, bingo, that's the reason behind it, right? Is that their do capacity, their get on with it capacity has been minimized. So when you look at the complete model and you say, okay, how do you get all three of those together? We have a 9-week program that does that. And I wouldn't dare come to a swap meeting without putting a proposition to you or making you an offer. And basically our 9-week program is my offer. But I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm just going to say, this is this thing we've got that changes everything. If it suits you, then maybe we should talk about it. That's the best I can offer you. What I can say is that our 9-week program starts with head, and we take 3 weeks on mindset. We deal with insightful perspective, courage for change, and unbeatable willpower. Then we go to emotional strength, how to eradicate blockages, heal our hearts, find courage and live fearlessly. And then we move on to what is the optimum strategy for me to use at this point, how to relentlessly implement what it is that we come up with, and how to overcome obstacles. And that's our framework and our formula. And I'm inviting you to have a look at it. If you want to have a look at it, I'm happy to spend some time with you discussing whether it fits your needs. All you need to understand is this: wherever you are right now, there is your future desired circumstances, and there's the time that you have allowed yourself to get there. And what most people do is more of the same. And if you do more of what you've always done, then you're going to get what you've always got. Although there's a proviso to say that, well, you'll actually get less of what you always got. The price of time for us passing is that we stay level instead of advancing. If you do less and less of what is good for you, then what happens is you don't make the most of your opportunities and we drift. And people whose lives drift are like drifting boats. Have you ever heard of a boat that drifted into a harbour and tied itself up? Generally speaking, no such thing happens, right? They drift onto the rocks. But people who decide to get on and have an amazing life are people who make decisions to take actions. And so when you look at this red line, green line concept, we talk about living a red life, an orange life, or a green life. We're referring to those 3 lines because they're the popular lines in our culture. When you look at that, what everybody has to do is make the jump at some point. And we've got to get onto the green life if we're going to have the life that we want to have. But most people wait too long to make that decision because, you see, the more time passes, then the more the jump becomes difficult because it's a further play, it's a larger jump to make. It's a harder jump. It's slower to get across a bigger distance. It costs more money, takes more time. Those kind of, I'm sure you get what I'm talking about. And so making the jump is a key activity. And what we use our framework for is to help people make the jump and then continue to move forward as they do that, because that framework is in fact a problem-solving mechanism that you can use for the rest of your life. So I'm going to make you an offer. And that offer is to jump to the next level, not just to the next level, but to one you haven't imagined before. So if you can imagine delivering guilt-free self-care, if you can imagine feeling worthy of every dream you could ever have, you can imagine becoming your own hero, then I'm going to invite you to have a look at this framework and how we apply it. Basically, it says 9 core principles to find the hero within. Takes 9 weeks. Learn them once, use them forever, because I'm too old and cranky to want to have to come back and teach you again. And so I teach this with the idea that you only need to learn it once. These are the only success strategies that I've seen over 40 years that actually work. My invitation boils down to this. If you want to explore whether that's the right thing for you or not, I'm happy to spend the time with you because of our kind of long-term connection. if you want to have a chat, that's what I'd recommend we do. We will know quickly whether we like each other and whether this is the right program for you, not whether it can deliver what it is you're looking for, if in fact you're looking for anything. So I'll promise you this, you'll come out of that chat with more knowledge about what to do to improve the quality of your life than you're going to get out of a library of personal development books, because I've got the library and I've read them all, and I'll share with you the bits that I think are relevant to whatever happens in that conversation. So you want to spend half an hour talking about whether that's the right thing for you or not, happy to do that. You can book a call, suit yourself, and we'll get together. Thank you for having me. Thank you for paying attention in the way that you have. Thank you for keeping SWAP going.
Paul, thank you very much for that. I'm going to call on Susan Kupfer to give a round of thanks. Susan?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul. That was a really great talk that you gave today. Gosh, somebody noted that I was taking lots of notes, and yes, I was, because what you were speaking really resonated with me, and talking about meditation and mindfulness and to be calm when under pressure. I was trying to log in today and I didn't get the normal Zoom link that we normally get. So I was trying to log in on Zoom, and I've never done it like that before. And these thoughts came to me, if at first you can't succeed, try again. So I reached down for my bottle of lavender essential oil and took a sniff of that, and I think that actually helped me under pressure to manage that. So something that I got from it here is, you know, I know the 21-day rule if you want to change a habit, and I've got something that I've been battling with. It's a particular food that I have in the fridge, and I wrote myself a sign on it yesterday, like stop, you know, before I reach in and just take it and randomly have it. So I put the sign on it. And when you reminded us again, it's a 21-day habit. I got my book out where I log all of my food every day, and today is day 2, and I put day 2, and I'm going to do 21 days now to change that habit. So I'm really determined. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, what you said to me today just absolutely resonated with me, and thank you. Sometimes those little things that we can say really help people. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed your talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Susan. Thank you, Paul. All right, moving into the closing stages. Sylvia, can you give a quick overview of the social function coming up? Sylvia? Okay. We'll move on. You'll have to unmute yourself, Sylvia. No? Okay. You'll hear...
I'm unmuted.
There she is.
Sylvia?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Go.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes, please. Quick.
Okay, so the social is going ahead on the 11th of March. We're going to the Gold Coast to stay overnight at a beautiful golf course resort at Carrara. Then going on to dinner at Robina by coach for a dinner and a show. Then coming back by coach, and then the following morning we're all having breakfast together. So I'm doing the brochure up today, and hopefully it'll get out early next week. So that's what's happening. But 16 have booked, so we're happy with that start. We're waiting on people to come back from holidays to let me know if they're coming along. I just can't contact them at the moment. And that's great. So I'm really happy with what's happened.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sylvia. Moving forward, now that we've started in 2023, your committee's setting some goals for the year. One of the main items on the agenda is to increase our membership, and also the type of speakers that we're getting. Jeremy, I've got to say thank you for your work in procuring Paul for this morning. It was a fabulous result from Paul. Paul, thank you very much for your contribution. Very and helps kick us along. The other item is membership. We're keen to advance our membership, and you'll see some things coming out throughout the year to increase that. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for everyone joining us again. Paul, thank you very much for your contribution and sharing with us this morning. Charlie, I've got to say thank you to you. It's not often you'll get a thank you from me, but thank you for your due diligence that you're doing on yourself to get yourself back in order. And to be, it's really a miracle because in bringing you back was a pain in the ass. I slept with one eye open for 3 or 4 nights. I pushed you in a wheelchair around 3 airports. You did nothing but whinge. I've lost this, I've lost that. Tie up my shoe. To see you now, you're in is a credit to you, young fella. So thank you very much. That's it. All over from me. Have a great month. Did you want to say something, Charlie? Unmute yourself. Quick, before we close, Charlie.
Maybe you can't hear you.
Yeah, you can't get the mute off.
You can unmute everyone, can't you?
Susan's still muted and Yvonne's still muted and Paddy's still muted.
No, I can't. They do it themselves now.
All right, we're going to close. Thanks, Charlie. Maybe it's something you can share at the next meeting. Have a great month. You'll get alerted to our next meeting. And
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good week.
I'm unmuted now.
Charlie's unmuted.
all the best.
All the best.
Thank you.
All the best.
I'm just going to
Bye.
say, Greg, I didn't realise it was you that brought me back.
I know your sight's bad, Charlie, but have a great month.
Hi.
Take care.
I thought it was my father.
Have a great month, all. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
I have to agree with everything that Paul said was just amazing. I did a 10-day Vipassana meditation course about 4 years ago, and that actually changed my life. I was so grateful to come out of that. And everyone said to me, "You've got this glow about you," and I actually felt pure from the inside out, as in my being, my thoughts, my attitude towards things. And he was so spot on with everything he was saying. I really resonated. It was really good. That was, and I look at SWAP as personal development always.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't come from personal development, nothing's going to ever happen anyway. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Remember all that. We all know that. Yeah, very good. Good on you, Jeremy. That was brilliant.
Thanks, Rhonda.
And thanks to Rhonda and thanks to me. Rhonda spoke to me about Paul and I just said, wow, he's going to sound like a really good speaker. So between the three of us, you got him on. That's great.
We get there in the end.
Yeah, we always get there in the end. Yeah.
I was surprised we could get him so quickly.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. And you know what? He's the kind of speaker that's got his heart in the right place. That's why he resonates. You just get more of those people, Jeremy. They're brilliant.
Rhonda, I originally contacted Paul in 2012. And then a year later, I sent him a message on Facebook, 2013, and he didn't respond to either of them. So when three of us contacted him this time, he's like, oh, yeah. It was like 10 years ago I was supposed to get back to you.
I actually spoke to him. I did the 21 days and I spoke to him about speaking to SWAP because it was through SWAP that I met Paul many years ago, and I've done a number of his things. And every year he does a free three-hour session with just getting you oiled up for the year. And then if you want, you can go on and do further. And this year I did the day one, and then I did the 21-day one. It cost $50. Can you believe that you get a 3-week, half an hour a day with an assignment for just $50? And then at the end of that, we've just finished that, and tonight we start on the 90-day that he was talking about this morning. So I was so inspired with what I was able to achieve in that 21 days. And you might have noticed I'm no longer a champion procrastinator.
Hey.
Can I ask a couple of questions before we go?
Sorry?
Can I ask a couple of questions before we go?
Yep.
That was absolutely brilliant. As we all know, we've been lucky enough over the many years to hear a lot of incredibly good speakers, right? I've been lucky enough to do the Accelerated Learning Institute with Kiyosaki and all of those guys over the years, and who knows how many dollars that's cost. And I would say that would go close to being the most excellent explanation of pragmatic, practical, realistic trainings to help you become a better me. And we all know the old saying that how do I make my world a better place? First, I have to make myself a better me. Now, that's a step-by-step thing, because one of the trite old sayings is, if you don't know where you're going, then how are you going to get there? Well, now, that's a step-by-step thing. Did we by chance tape that? Is that available to us on tape?
Yes, it'll be on Facebook tomorrow.
God strike me, I would like to get that into the hands of, first and foremost, myself. So irrespective of what it costs, I'm going to have a go at that, even at this stage of life. And I'd love to get it in the hands of all of my children, which are 6, grandchildren, which are 18, and great-grandchildren, which are about 10.
Wow.
Now, if you extend that across, you look at the world today and the younger generations, they don't know where they're going or how they're going to get there. And the world is such a confusing place for everybody today, in every way, politically, economically, health-wise, the pandemic, GFCs, etc. And so I think that can help to clear the fear away, the confusion away, and give somebody a training program. Because when you go to the gymnasium, you can go and work out on your own, and you might not get a result. You see the people that pay the money to go and get a trainer, and they're the ones that build up and look fantastic and have got great bodies. So, you know, this guy is, I've heard Kiyosaki and all of them, and this fella's up the top. He's up the top. You know, I'd like to find out how to get in contact, see if we can repeat that. I'd love to hear it again. And also how to get to participate, because I'll do it even at my age.
Okay.
I'm still trying to make myself a better me.
In the chat box, you'll see the link. It's called bit.ly/principles-discovery, and that takes you to the website.
Rhonda, I took a screenshot of his little cloverleaf thing there.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it'd be worthwhile, because obviously there's a few people who couldn't make it on the call today. So if we could send out an email saying, hey, you missed a great session. Here's a picture of what Paul talked about. Here's the link to Paul's thing. And here's a link to watch the video on Facebook. And maybe the people who didn't come, they could see that. And obviously, you know, Luke can share that email with his family and that sort of stuff as well as the other.
Okay. I'm going to stop the recording now.